Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Spiritual Center for Conscious Living and our Sunday Conscious Conversation. This week we are bringing you part 2 of our July series being Choosing Divine Freedom, the balance between sovereignty and oneness. And our topic today for part 2 is oneness versus enmeshment. Before we get into that, though, just a little bit about us. If you're not familiar with us, we are a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to bringing you the newest and sometimes oldest and tried and true methods for living your best conscious life and bringing awareness and just holistic living into your life. And I mentioned that we're a 501c3, which means we bring this as a service. However, we also welcome donations. You can do so if you'd like to. Check out our description. We have some links there. You can do it via PayPal. We have Amazon Smile. If you like to do some shopping, you can get a little bit of that, comes back to us. And you can just visit our website. That link is also in the description of this video at SCfCL.org. With that being said, I think we're ready to go right to it, unless Renee has anything else or Lori has anything else to add, but I think we're good to go.
Well, before we go to, I do want to say this. Lori had a birthday this past week.
Yep.
I did.
Everybody join in wishing her happy birthday.
Yay, happy birthday, Lori.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll go to it.
All right.
All right. So I'm changing my view also. Hold on. Oh, I keep doing the wrong thing. Excuse me 1 minute, everybody. Okay, I can focus better when I change my view a little bit. So, welcome. We're glad you're here. And we are covering something really significant today. So I want to ask you, before we even begin, to take a breath. Exhale with sound all through your body. So you'll be grounded. Then I want you to be down in your heart, please. Opening your mind and your heart to this concept. Today we're going to discuss distinguishing oneness, the spiritual concept of oneness, with a damaging habit that humans often play into that's called enmeshment. And I'll give some details about that from something called SCfCL.com in a moment. But first, I want to talk about oneness. Let's talk about oneness because that's such a beautiful concept. There's two facets of that I want to talk about today. So last week we talked about sovereignty. And in order to have sovereignty, you have to practice sacred self-love. You have to carve out time to nurture yourself, nourish yourself. We went through what I call the 3 C's: cherish, champion, celebrate. And that's how you stay in a state, a feeling state, a being state, an energetic state of sacred self-love, not egotistical arrogance and any of that. It's just very, very grounded. And in that state, you will not cause harm to others. Now, others may not like what you do because you're honoring your boundaries. If you want to know more about boundaries, we did a whole month on that last month in June. The entire month was about the energy of boundaries, because boundary begins with energy. It's how you be. Words and actions come after that. It's how you be that is the boundary, because you can have all these lovely words that sound super evolved and wise, but if your energy isn't aligned with it, then your energy field will tell you, it will mirror to you. And some of you might have seen the post. I had a quote by Rumi, which I don't have in front of me, so I may not get it exactly, but I always loved this quote by Rumi, and it is the idea that as you really deepen your ability and capacity to live from the energy of the heart, divine love, pure divine love, as opposed to enmeshment and dysfunction and all the other things human love can also be wonderful, of course. But when you live from that pure space of divine love, the way he's expressed it, I think, love, he says, then the mirror becomes clearer and cleaner. The mirror is what you are creating in the world, your energy field, what you manifest, what you experience. The degree of chaos you experience is mirroring to you that your energy resonance, the resonance of your beingness has static in it. It has fluctuations. It has something that you want to be a smooth, swift flow, but it keeps having jolts, ups and downs, stops and starts, right? That is how we know. It's not a lesson, it's not a punishment. It's just simply what your energy is. It's a mirror. It's just a mirror. It's a mirror to inform you, a gift of awareness. This is your energy. You think your energy is your thoughts. That's not always true. In fact, a lot of times it's not the case. A lot of times your energy does not align with your thoughts because it's coming from the human brain and you're not in your heart. And the brain's doing one thing and the heart's saying something else. And when they come together and you have divine alignment and you open divine presence and power, now you're aligned and your energy will match your intentions. And your intentions and the energy that comes with those intentions will always, always be what you manifest. It will not be your words and your thoughts when they're not aligned. It will always be the energy, always, that will always override the thoughts and the words and even the actions. Okay, so for those of you who follow on our website and enjoy the program that I put up each week, there's always a weekly reading, and I want to read part of that today because I think this is a beautiful way of just understanding oneness without enmeshment, oneness that is actually, the divine concept of oneness, rather than what is misconstrued often in humanity with even the most loving intentions, and it becomes enmeshment. So we're going to talk more about what is enmeshment, but let's focus first on oneness. So oneness is, there's kind of two elements. There's the quantum physics idea that in essence, our energy fields we influence anybody in our energy field, and they influence us when we're in their energy field. And so that's why you always want to be very conscious and aware and make high vibrational choices how you spend your time and with whom and where. Are you in a high vibrational, clean, clear energy field? You want to always keep that for yourself as well. That's what the sacred self-love and sovereignty is about. We talked about that last week. If you didn't see that, please go back and watch it. I encourage you to do that. Every week we build on what we talked about the week before. So sovereignty is you managing your energy field, and it's also you understanding that other people are the only ones who can manage theirs. You can be supportive and caring, but you can't create for another person in their life, in their energy field. Their life experience is ultimately always going to be determined by their consciousness, meaning their most frequent and consistent energy. Is it high vibe, low vibe? Is it light? Is it dense, heavy, drama, chaos? Or is it more aligned with the light of the one, the divine, more based in joy and ease and peacefulness and abundance and calm, kind of this grounded calmness. So here's the inspiration. I ask you to consider this as I read it. This is what oneness feels like without enmeshment. Oneness that is true oneness, that is not the confusion of oneness that humans often end up doing, which becomes enmeshment. And it completely undermines your sovereignty and the sovereignty of those who you are enmeshed with. So it's not just you, it's everybody that you might be unknowingly living in enmeshed dynamics with, even though There's love between all of you. It still is still holding everybody back. So this is from the Daily Word, which is a Unity publication. The word is carefree. Carefree. How does that word feel to you? How often do you feel carefree? The affirmation is, I face this day unlimited and carefree. Today I make the choice to release my worries and live a carefree life. Now, releasing them isn't the same as not taking responsibility for the things that you need to do. Like you want to feed the children and feed yourself and care for yourself. And maybe if you have an elderly parent you care for, you have a job to do, you have responsibilities. It doesn't mean you don't take responsibility. You release your worries about those responsibilities. Moment by moment, I am mindful of my abundant store of rich blessings. My life is full, and I claim my good with every affirmative thought. Now, if you're going through a difficult time, you might think, well, I don't feel that I have an abundant store of blessings. So begin by giving thanks for the gift of life, the preciousness of being alive on this amazing planet. Yes, there are things that are challenging. And I'm not saying don't be aware. I always teach awareness and conscious inspired action as opposed to reacting from fear and anger. So yes, there's challenges. There are also blessings, the blessing of life itself, the blessing of nature, amazing gift that nature brings. One single person in your life who is kind and caring towards you. A beautiful pet, a sibling, a friend, a parent, a colleague, a neighbor. Count the blessings and then also deal with awareness of the challenges. Not only do I bless my life by letting go of tension, I bless my community by allowing others to live their lives free from my judgments or criticisms. So you're blessing the community with a sense of oneness without attachment in the form of judgment and criticism because they choose something different from what you choose. Lack of enmeshment, conscious choice not to become enmeshed. It goes on to say, I remember that the people whose lives touch mine are children of God. That's a beautiful way to understand oneness. You see the divine in all life, just as I am a child of God, and that they are free to make choices and take the steps they are meant to take. I see them whole, well, and free. Now, sometimes our loved ones take steps that are not good for them. We've done that too, haven't we? All of us. We want to intervene if it's emergency, if it's going to life-threatening or so toxic that it is beginning to harm them. We certainly want to intervene then. Other than that, we have to allow them to choose their path, including mistakes, what we might call a mistake, because sometimes that's the thing they have to go through for this gift of awareness to be aha for them, as opposed to, I don't get it. What do you call this a problem? I'm enmeshed with this person, but it's because he or she is so wonderful and they have them on a pedestal and they're enmeshed and they're enamored in an unhealthy way, as opposed to admiration, respect, and honor that is equal to how they have admiration, respect, and honor for themselves. Okay, one more part here. Gratefully, I go about my day with ease and grace. The grace of God, the grace of the divine. My mind is at peace. I am safe and secure in the heart of God, in divine love, in divine presence and power. And then this is one of my favorite Bible verses. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. So that's the second element I want to talk about with oneness. They will see God. They will see the divine in themselves and in all life. The pure of heart, the pure in heart, they say. Blessed are the pure in heart. When your heart is pure, meaning you are coming from divine love, not the human heart, but the energy of the heart. When your heart is pure, you see the divine in others. You won't be able to see it in others if you don't see it in yourself. You might be reminded of it in a beautiful way that helps guide you, that's actually encouraging you to see it in yourself and to live from that connection of knowing you are a child of the divine, a divine creation, a divine expression, individualized. So there's this field of oneness that quantum physics has made clear to us, that anything done on this side of the globe affects everything on the other side of the globe, not just in the physical realm, which is true, but energetically first, which then manifests in the physical realm. And so we are one in that we are all from the source, whether you call that source the divine, beloved creator, God, God force, life force, spirit. They're meant the power that creates worlds, the power that is, all that is. There are many ways to express it. I encourage you to find the one that most opens your heart so that you can have this beautiful divine oneness with the divine, your divine self, open and receiving and aligned with the divine. Because if you don't feel that, it's not because it's not available to you. It doesn't go anywhere. It's right here all the time. It's right here all the time, and it's right here all the time. So if you're not able to get there, it's because you're not opening your heart to it and telling your beautiful human brain with all its fears about opening to the divine. Am I worthy? Will something bad happen? Will I not measure up? Whatever those fears are, anxieties, you have to tell them to shush, just shush, or be still, or be quiet, or calm down, or hush. Hush, beloved. Say that to yourself. When your brain starts going into, hush, beloved. Don't be harsh. Don't be shut up and that kind of thing. Just be firm, but be tender. Hush, beloved, to yourself, to that beautiful human brain that's only doing what it's been programmed to do by you, even if it was done unconsciously. Hush, beloved, be still, because I know there is an I am presence that I am meant to be aligned with, and I'm going to do that now. So hush, beloved, drop into your heart. We'll practice that in just a moment when we do our energy activation and meditation. All right, so now that's the two elements of oneness. We're going to practice that oneness again, as I said, when we go into our energy activation. Now I want to talk about enmeshment. So enmeshment, that can be, I see it all the time. I had to learn it, just so you know. Those of you who already know me and have been a part of our center, you know that I shared openly that I grew up with a very abusive childhood. I had extended family that were unconditionally loving, wonderful to me, and a childhood minister that was with the Unity that I spent a lot of time with, and the church secretary I lived with off and on. So all of that gave me this wonderful support system that was deeply spiritual, teaching me to align with the divine before I could even read. I mean, literally, it started as 18 months old and the rest of my life. And so I'm so grateful to that. And because of that and early counseling that I took myself to in my early 20s, I was able to overcome so much of the damage of the abuse. But it took time. It wasn't immediate. So for anyone who's in that process, it's not immediate. Be patient with yourself as you would a little one that you're teaching and supporting to learn how to walk. or ride a tricycle or a bicycle, something like that. Be patient with yourself. Be patient and loving toward yourself. Firm with yourself without being harsh. Firm is not harsh. Now, some people interpret firm, like when you try to set a boundary. There will people who will be upset with you. That's a sign of a toxic personality or a toxic dynamic, relationships or energy dynamics. So I'm going to give 3 examples for you to think about. There's a lot of things we could talk about, but we have limited time. So just in this time, I'm going to give you 3 ideas. Do you have people in your life who consistently, not just like they have a bad day and they're not quite themselves, but who they are on a regular basis, they invade your boundaries. You need privacy, and they, instead of giving it to you, they keep interrupting you, they keep bothering you. Another thing is you need time for self-care, and they undermine it somehow by making demands on you when you're trying to take care of you, take a nap or enjoy a hot bath or go for a walk, and you need some time alone. They don't allow you privacy is another example. That's a toxic dynamic. We're not calling these people bad people. There are personalities who are intentionally toxic. They choose to be, because that's their way of being powerful. They think that makes them powerful. It does make them damaging. It does. People who cave to that will give their power away to the toxic person, the toxic personality. That doesn't mean they're actually powerful. They're just manipulating and dominating in the moment. But the actual power resides in your connection with the divine, your alignment with divine presence and power, which is the power, always the power. Okay, another example of a toxic dynamic or a person who's behaving in toxic ways in your relationships. This can be any type of relationship, anything at all. They insist that you agree with them, or they always need to be right. They always need to be smarter than anyone else, more correct than anyone else. And if you have an opinion that's different, they want to kind of debate or maneuver or overpower you until they just sort of like hammer away at you until you'll agree with them. They may do it in a polite way. They may do it in a very abrasive way. Even the polite way is still, I can remember I've known people which they'll ask you a question. They want you to do something, let's say, and you'll say, no, I don't care to. And within a minute or 2, they ask you the same question again. And you go, did they not hear me? No, thank you. I don't care for that. I don't care to eat that. I don't care to drink that. I don't care to participate with you to go do this or that. No, thank you. And they'll come back again. And I made a rule a long time ago. The 3rd time is the final time. And that's being, I think, more than patient with somebody. And I will just say, okay, this is the 3rd time you've asked me. I'm not answering this question again. Just so we're clear, please hear me. In case you didn't hear me before, please hear me. The answer is no, thank you. And if they ask again, I don't answer. I stop answering. Why should I spend my energy? Because all they're doing is trying to hammer you. See, they're trying to hammer you into doing something you've said you don't want to do. So don't waste your energy. You can't change them. There's a quote I saw recently, is that you can't change other people. You can't change the people you're with, I think is how it was said. You can't change the people you're with, but you can change the people you're with. So you can't change people, but you can change the people you choose to be with. You see, we don't have to be with toxic people. We don't. And if you don't believe that, you're sabotaging your well-being. You do not have to be with toxic people. You don't. You really don't. It's a choice for you to be with toxic people. Ask yourself why you're choosing that. Why do you not love yourself more than that? Why do you not feel worthy to be with people who will be wonderful, who will not be enmeshed and not be toxic? Okay, one more thing. And again, I'm only listing 3. These are the top 3 I see so often in people's that come to me, and they're depleted, and they're they're overwhelmed with life. It could be people at work, it could be family, it could be romantic, it could be friendships, it could be organizations they're involved in, neighbors. It can be anywhere, absolutely anywhere. So the third one I ask you to consider is somebody that demands your attention and approval constantly, like a little child. They're like, they never grew up. They're a little child, and they are addicted to constant attention and approval to feel secure. They're making you their God, is what it feels like. But if your ego buys into that, what you'll find out very quickly is actually you're giving your power to them. You are not the God in the relationship. You are disempowered. And so ask yourself, do you have a need to try to play God in people's lives? Because if you're spending your time doing these behaviors, there's a reason why you're choosing that, why you find that acceptable for yourself. Remember, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people you choose to be around you. Why are you choosing people to play God with? And let that deplete you. That's all you do with your life force, is save other people, rescue other people. I'm not saying we don't want to love and support. We do, but without enmeshment. So now let's go into enmeshment. So before I do, I want to ask you, be honest with yourself. Take a breath. Those are the 3. Ask yourself, do you have people in your life who do consistently one or all of these 3 things? They invade your boundaries and undermine your self-care. They insist upon your agreement with them, and they have to always be right or smart or correct. And number 3, they demand your constant attention and approval. Those are toxic personalities. I'm not saying the person is evil or bad, or they just need to take a hold of themselves and heal themselves of these toxic choices. And the truth is, some people will and some people won't. So what do? You need to take charge of you. And if you continually place yourself in that role in other people's lives, as I said before, you need to be really honest with yourself. Why do you need to play God in these people's lives? Why do you need to give your power away to them to feel that you're good enough, worthy in some way, or that somehow is necessary for their survival? That means you don't believe they're sovereign. You're not honoring their sovereignty. And sometimes in our sovereignty, we make choices that may not be the best overall, but it may be something that person has to experience for their own gift of awareness to come up so they can say, oh, wow, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm ready to make a change. That old saying, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you make a change, right? Sadly, sometimes the human part of us, not the divine part of us, but the human part of us will need that. Okay, so let's go through enmeshed. What are enmeshed relationships? And if you're not sure if this is a new word to you, enmeshed, ENMESHED, enmeshed. This is from SCfCL.com. Someone in an enmeshed relationship is overly connected and needs to meet the other person's needs so badly that they lose touch with their own needs, goals, desires, and feelings. Often just the thought of being without the person can be anxiety producing. Now, enmeshed is different from codependent in this way. Codependency creates the dynamic of enmeshment. Enmeshment is a dynamic. Codependent is a behavior pattern and a belief system, and enmeshment falls within that. It's really the toxic effect, you might say, of codependent choices. Okay, enmeshed relationships can occur between parents and children, romantic partners, siblings, family members, friends. Now, in this article, they cover two aspects. Uh, Romantic couples, what that looks like, and family. So I'm going to go with those. Remember, don't forget that we often are very enmeshed with friends, colleagues at work, people in groups and organizations and causes we support. So just be very loving and tender with yourself as you hear this, and just let yourself feel into, am I doing that? Is someone else doing that with me and I'm allowing it? Am I doing that to others? Am I doing that to myself? So just be honest and very kind and tender, while also firm as part of sacred self-love, so you can have your sovereignty. Enmeshed couples. Okay. Enmeshed romantic partners might be so connected that they make all decisions together. They don't do anything the other one would disapprove of, and they feel responsible for managing each other's problems and feelings. It's all we and no me. They often do not have independent friendships outside the relationship. Either the friend is our friend or they are not a friend. Sometimes in romantic relationships, one person will put their partner on a pedestal and think their needs and feelings are more important than their own. Each partner becomes emotionally overwhelmed when their partner is upset. They respond as if the emotion or situation is happening directly to them. They cannot relax until their partner is okay. So just take that in. If you've ever had that experience or you are experiencing that, we're going to do an activation in a few minutes to help you release it. But do so with love and compassion. Okay? Love and compassion starts with awareness, authentic, calm, firm awareness. Now, here's the description for enmeshed families. Let's take a breath. Enmeshed families are most likely tightly knit families where everyone lives nearby. Now, it doesn't mean if you live near your family, you're enmeshed, but usually that's part of it as well. Okay? Enmeshment can occur between parents and children, siblings, or several family members together. These relationships always involve a blurring of boundaries, a displacement of other normal relationships, and feeling like they feel each other's emotions. When they say a displacement of other normal relationships, there are families who really don't spend a lot of time with people that aren't part of their family. That's an example. And there are couples like that too, right? Then it goes on. So it's like this isolation begins to happen and groupthink takes over. You have to always think like the family, or in the couple, you have to always think the same, or there's a problem. Okay. This is again about families. Sometimes it results in a feeling among family members that they can't express their own needs or opinions if those needs or opinions don't align with those of the rest of the family. People sometimes will do without something they need for their own comfort and well-being because the family doesn't really agree with it. See, that's enmeshed. Your boundaries are kind of this blob of energy of like all of you, as opposed to you're an individuated energy field, and each family member is an individuated expression of the divine in their energy field, and you exchange love and caring without losing your sovereignty of your own energy field. I think there's a little bit more here. Let's go on and say one more thing. Family members who are enmeshed often do not respect boundaries and expect to have a vote on family members' decisions. They can expect to dictate their adult children's career, parenting decisions, romantic relationships, or social media posts. It can work the other way too. Adult children can treat their parents that way. And then they go on to say, enmeshed family members might see an adult child moving to another city as a betrayal of the family. Meanwhile, adult children in enmeshed relationships can think they have a vote on their parents' marriages, financial decisions, or choice of friends. There's something called parentification, and that means parents rely on their children to take care of them or the rest of the family. It can be the other way too. Sometimes adult children rely on their parents as like automatic live-in babysitters without there being a clear understanding, clear communication about it. And it goes on, let's see a little bit more to say, sometimes it says this can be rooted in a divorce where the parent felt vulnerable and sought comfort, love, and connection from their child, or the parent is excessively worried about their child and their extreme overprotectiveness results in unhealthy dependency. It goes on to say adults from enmeshed families may be more likely to experience emotional dysregulation, such as negative moods and lower tolerance to distress. Those who grew up in an enmeshed family are more apt to recreate unhealthy codependent relationships. Enmeshment is often rooted in a dysfunctional family dynamic that is recreated generation after generation. We tend to recreate what we already know. If there was a trauma in a childhood, the family dynamic often shifts to manage the trauma. For example, in my childhood, I had a sibling who was terminally ill, and everything was focused on her, which of course we wanted her. Everyone wanted her to survive. She lived much longer than the doctor. She lived 4 years instead of 6 months. In that 4 years, the other children were not given the same love and care and nurturing. Now, it's understandable in an emergency, but think about what happens to children who live that way, and then the family continues those dynamics. It doesn't ever get healed. It doesn't return to wholeness. The balance is never restored. That creates, as they said, a sense that codependency is normal. And then as the adult, the child has to unlearn that. Or if they don't, they live forever in enmeshed relationships and believe that to be normal. And the problem with the enmeshed relationship, as I said, is that you're not sovereign. You're like this, they're like this blob of energy of all these other people. I was thinking about it. It's like, instead of being this radiant light that is you, the individuated you, expression of the divine, creation of the divine, clear and calm, and you're emanating your wonderful gifts and brilliance and talents, your divine self leading the human self. Instead of being that, you're part of this, you're lost in space with others. And there's this blob of energy that always has to go everywhere together and can't ever go too far and can't ever express freely and fully. It's almost like you don't have permission to fully breathe and fully be. And I would say it's not almost like that. It is like that, really. At least there's moments of it consistently. So be gentle and this isn't about blaming parents or anybody, partners even. Everybody's doing what they know to do based on their life experience. But once you know better, as Maya Angelou teaches, once you know better, you can do better. Okay? Now, let's have that energy activation. Let's take a deep breath, please. Exhale with sound. Oh, through your body, activating that vagus nerve, getting energy into your vital organs, grounding. And now we're going to do the breathing box. Breathe in for deep 3 seconds. Hold for 3 seconds. Exhale for 3 seconds. Pause for 3 seconds. And a very gentle, deep, thorough breath from the ground up, all through your feet and legs, up through your spine, up through your neck and your head, and out your crown and cascading around you. The light of the One. You are an individuated expression of the One. Do you choose to be the light that you are born to be, your divine birthright, your divine heritage? Do you choose that right now? Do you choose to learn to be that with the energy of boundaries that allows your sovereignty and others' sovereignty? Do you choose to take responsibility for your sovereignty? Do you choose to commit to honoring your need for privacy and stillness to cultivate sacred self-love, which is the foundation of your sovereignty? Do you choose to enjoy sharing your love and your talents and your joy and your peace and your passion with others once you have established your sovereignty, and to do so without losing your sovereignty, without giving up your sovereignty? And do you choose to allow others to find their own way, to be sovereign, and to accept when they choose not to? Not to accept the result of it, not to accept toxic behavior that results from it, but to accept that that's who they choose to be. And do you choose to be with people who do not behave in toxic ways? To love those who do and allow them to be who they choose in ways that it does not undermine your self-care, does not prevent your sovereignty? Do you choose to commit to your well-being and your sacred self-love and your sovereignty above all, so that you can then be the light, the powerful, brilliant, radiant light you are born to be, and intentionally direct your energy towards causes, purpose, and passion that is the most aligned with who you choose to be? Supporting and loving others in ways that are healthy for everyone involved. High vibration, high consciousness, not rescue and saving those who are fully capable of learning to help themselves, helping them help themselves, absolutely, but not saving them from themselves, rescuing them over and over. Getting help for them, yes, but not becoming the power in their life that they are meant to be as a sovereign being, as an empowered divine creation, enabling them constantly to not do the work they must do to become that for themselves, as themselves, of themselves, with alignment of divine presence and power, because they are equally divinely loved and empowered and supported. Take a deep breath. I invite you to make that commitment to yourself. Release all others to find their way to that commitment, or to choose not to have that commitment. Allow them to make that choice or not. And then you choose accordingly for your own well-being, your own sovereignty, sacred self-love and self-care, free and full expression of the brilliance and radiance that is the pure being that you are here to be. We need you in this world. You need you in this world. This is what you came for. Beloved, I invite you to be it unabashedly, without guilt or shame. Lay down any guilt or shame that has been placed on you for choosing that. Lay it down. Let it be. Don't pick it up again. Lay it down for good. And now, take some breaths and help you get grounded as we return to where we are individually and together, the energy space we've created. We'll continue with conscious conversation. Take a deep breath. Exhale with sound. Open your eyes. Another deep breath. Exhale with sound. Coming back slowly, carefully. One more deep breath. Exhale gently, shake out your fingers and your toes, wiggle your toes. Shake your body a little bit. Shake that booty, get yourself back in your body. This beautiful blended being that you are, an individuated expression of the divine, having a gorgeous human experience. All right. All right, team, are we ready?
I think we're ready. You
Okay.
ready, Spence?
Just about. I'm turning off the music and switching up my view.
Wonderful. All right. So, as I said last week, I'll say this every so often, just as a reminder for those who might be watching us for the first time. I pose a question for the conscious conversation, and we want the audience to participate to whatever degree you feel comfortable. Answer it or make a comment about it. If you feel it's a little too raw to share publicly, you can always go to the website, SCfCL.org, and it shows you how to reach me to send a personal email. Also, if you want some phone support by phone call or Zoom or Skype, that sort of thing, we can arrange that. If you would like to participate in our conversation, Spencer will monitor that, and we would love to hear from you. So I also posed the question, and Lori and Spencer are not obligated to answer. It's entirely what they want to share. It's, we honor privacy, and we honor everyone's choice to share to whatever degree feels right for them in this moment. Sometimes things are kind of raw, and you need to process it a little bit before you share it with others, and that's perfectly okay. That's honoring your own privacy. So here's my question. It's a real simple question. It has complex little nuances, but the question is very simple. How frequently, how consistently are you being pure you, or letting yourself get lost in space, other people's energy fields, lost in other people's space, their energy fields? So just kind of measuring that. It's not a judgment. It's not a test. It's like for self-awareness. As Rumi said, the mirror becomes clearer and cleaner. Mm-hmm. So the mirror tells you how well we're doing at being pure, being the divine creation we are, or lost in some energy blob with another person or a group of people, other individuals or a group, right? Whoever wants to go first, or if you don't want to talk about that, you can talk about something that an aha you had while we had our meditation.
Mine is both. Go ahead, Spence.
Yeah, I got some stuff too. First, I want to start by saying, last week in the lesson, and if you haven't watched it, to go back and do it. We talked about to thine own self be true, and I could have had a whole conversation about that alone I won't, but I'll give a little bit of a background because that's a very important quote to me. And if you're not familiar with its background, it's from Hamlet, and it's what I believe Polonius or Claudius, one of the two, is telling his son before he goes off to college. He's giving all this advice, and that character is a kind of a distrustworthy person, but all of a sudden he comes out with this genuine advice. And the last one is to thine own self be true. And the whole quote is, and then it follows as the day the night, that thou canst not be untrue to any man. So it starts from within. So to thine own self be true, and then it follows, you cannot be untrue to anybody else. So that,
I love that.
That is the huge part for me.
It is. And let me add real quick. Yeah. That is another example of how sacred self-love, in that space, you will not cause harm. In divine alignment, you will not cause harm to others. Mm-hmm. So it is not selfish, it is self-love and self-wise.
Exactly. So that has carried me through this week, which has been, this is my segue, my grand segue, which has been full of moments of me evaluating, am I just getting sucked into other people's energy? And, it became real apparent that I do carry myself in my own true self a lot, but how quickly that can be influenced away from you when people start getting negative and people start, at work. My last story in the conversation was about work. That's what's been dominating my life. And, there were just a lot of people bickering with each other, and it really just brought down the energy to the point where I had to say something to somebody that I'm at my limit and just say, like, this has been rough, and everybody's been acknowledging it, and they were all just kind of like spiraling it up and like it was so apparent how everybody's just kind of whooping this energy around and into a lather. Like I just had to say that's enough, and made the decision we talked about in the last conversation, if you have not watched, about how I wasn't sure if me backing down from more responsibility was a bad thing. I talked with the manager and said, you know what, this is not a good time. I do not foresee anything good coming out of me taking on this responsibility for me. And I had to back down from it. And it was received. It was received, and had a great conversation about it. So I would say that I feel like maybe 75, 80% of the time I'm doing my own thing. And, but sometimes being more aware, 75 probably isn't as high of a percentage as I'd want to be, but it's good to have that awareness that I can then make the choice to not participate in that drama, that energy that sucks the positive energy out of you.
That's great. That's a high percentage. Yeah. And what's cool is we can always get better at it.
Exactly.
Of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Thank you for the little history research on.
Yeah.
I knew it was from Shakespeare, but I didn't remember where.
That's
So.
that's one of my favorites, because it's one of the last things that my neighbor, who's kind of like a grandpa to me, said, when he was ill, and about, he just reminded me I was going through some stuff, and that has always stuck with me, to thine own self be true. And then he was a scholar, very much emphasized that last point. It's not just about being true to yourself. It's because then you cannot cause harm, be untrue to anybody else.
Isn't that beautiful? And so just for those who might not have listened, I do encourage you to go back and listen. But we covered 3 things last week, and we processed it in our conversation segment. The first one is know thyself, which is from the Bible. Know thyself. You can't be true to yourself if you don't know yourself. Know your energy. Know what your energy is like. Know when it's your energy or you're taking on someone else's, right? Know thyself, and then to thine own self be true. And then be still and know the I am presence that is always with you, that is available for you, with you, expressing as you. So those are the 3 elements of sovereignty. All right, Miss Lori, I know you have something you want to share. We're glad you're with us. We love the fish. Cool fish.
Thank you. I like the fish too. It was one thing that really drew me into this particular space here. It's like, oh, those fish are awesome.
They really are.
Yeah, we were, talking about the enmeshment, and then I get a lot of visual pictures in the messaging going on in my head, and as you were talking about the different instances, I saw myself like walking a tightrope and then falling on one side and falling to the other, and it's like, for me, the situations in my life with family members, very dire situations, we're talking life or death situations, have really led me to have to put forth the extra energy into being true to myself so that I don't fall into the enmeshment. And it's really, really interesting for me at how many different and diverse situations with family members. When I was born, my older brother had cancer, colon rectal cancer. So when I was born, he was 8 years old. He had his first surgery at 9. And here he just celebrated his 63rd birthday. Luckily, with everything, I mean, severe surgeries. There have been were I can remember five. There probably were more summers where my younger brother and I were at my aunt's house, one of my aunt's houses or uncle's houses, for the summer while my brother was getting surgeries to remove cancer cells from his colon, rectum, wherever. I mean, he really is my half brother now. They've taken so many parts away from him. And there's a necessity there to where were we well taken care of? Absolutely. My extended family, wonderful people. And yeah, we did not want for food, shelter, fun, pools, activities. It was an interesting, summer every time we got to spend it with different cousins and aunts and uncles. And we have a lot of them on my mom's side alone, let alone my dad's. However, there's still some core just needs when you're younger, to have your parents around. And that is something that I didn't even consider that I needed to work on until much later in life. Did not realize that that was something that was a repeating pattern. And it came up multiple times in my life with different family members, with friends, where it was life or death situations that if I was not the one that stepped up to intervene and put forth a good chunk of my time and talent and treasure into, they would not be here. They would not be alive today. And I don't regret 1 second of it. Had I been armed, however, with the tools I have now to truly be true to myself, figure out what that is, take the time to, really be secure in my energy. When my mom was in her last 2 months of life, I had the privilege of spending those 2 months with her and working from the house and mending a lot of things and talking about so many things. It was a very bittersweet time for me. Hey, Mersey. And there was a point where every day I was still going for my walks. I was walking at that point, 2 to 7 miles a day, depending on how busy my days were. And then one day I went for a walk on a conference call, and my brother and father were there, but the house, the way it's lined up, they really couldn't hear my mother, and she was in a weaker state. And it was shortly after I left for that walk that she had tried to get out of bed to go to the bathroom by herself and fell. And for those 2 hours, she was lying on the floor. That I don't think I've still processed. So I was thinking about that in the enmeshment stage. Was I enmeshed? I really thought that I wasn't, because I was really doing what I needed for my self-care at the time until that particular thing happened. And here it is 7 years later, and little by little, I got sucked back into that enmeshment pattern, and I didn't realize it. And it's really eye-opening to look at ourselves in that mirror when I'm looking, going, oh, yep, here. Oops, I did it again.
Yeah, that's
with my current
situation
with my Alan. There are days, there are clear days that are great, and there are days he wakes up throwing up. It's partly the cancer meds, partly because he absolutely will not do what he needs to eat nutritiously. I mean, I have cut up vegetables. I have done everything. It's like, here, wham, and nope, and it's like, I can't care more than you do. But it's hard because I do care more than he does.
It's good awareness, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Awareness. And, think about this. What happened with your mom, just that one instance. Mm-hmm. And there were so many other things in childhood too, right? But just that with your brother. But that one moment was a trauma where it would be natural then for you to say that my baby wants to play real bad. It would be, so the programming from that could be,
Yeah.
if I take care of me, my loved one will suffer.
Yes.
I have to choose. But
Yeah.
so the new choice you can make is, I can take care of me and my loved ones will be safe to the extent, now this is not about your mom, I mean, granted but
Yeah.
that didn't cause her demise. It was
Right.
obviously something you don't want to happen. So you could go back another time and say, you could do it over and go, I will take a walk. And this time, dad, brother, whomever, put a chair in the hallway outside her door until I get back,
Yeah.
And so that there's no chance, or you do a baby monitor or whatever. In other words, you learn from it and do it differently, as opposed to cold turkey. Now I can't take care of myself because somebody will suffer. Right. That's, Lori, so brave of you to share, because I want everybody to please understand that this happens to all of us. It doesn't have to be life or death, even, that we have this thing and we go, oh, if I take care of me, something bad will happen. Right. I mean, I had that programming from a sister that was terminal. If I had the joy of playing with a toy, then I was a bad person because I didn't let her play with the toy. But I was just a little tiny toddler, So anything I wanted to do for joy was bad because she had to have all the joy available. Not her. She was benign in it. She was beautiful, loving, gentle soul. But there was an overcompensation and fear of parenting, which I can only imagine how traumatic it is, to deal with. So I'm not blaming. I'm just saying awareness. That's the awareness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share, sweetie?
Not that comes to my mind right now.
So I want to reiterate for everybody listening, you can have both. If you allow God to be God for other people, the divine to be the divine presence and power for other people, and for yourself, you can have both. Sovereignty and sacred love, self-care, self-wisdom, and their well-being. You will have the energy to do what is appropriate, and you'll have the wisdom to not do what is not appropriate, what is actually enabling and undermining them developing into their own sovereignty. You will also have the courage to get honest, very honest. Like Lori was saying, sometimes she cares more than the other person. That's the time to step back and let them have sovereignty. They get to choose the quality of their life. Everybody does. We can help them when they choose to improve. We can help them get there. We can help through our energy and emotional guidance, wisdom that we share from our own life lessons. We can help materially. It might be finances, or it might be a gift of something they need. Maybe, like we receive extra food and we share it with somebody who is in need of extra food, right? It can be other physical forms of support. Somebody needs to go for a walk, but they're a little unsteady, so you go for a walk with them. Help them get that going, There's a lot of ways it can be done without sacrificing your own well-being. So anyone who's sacrificing their own well-being with the idea that I have to, because as a spiritual being, we're one, and as a spiritual being, it's wrong of me to want to have my privacy. It's wrong of me to want to take care of me when somebody else is needing something. But every individual has the capacity to align with the divine and have their needs met. And it is met through humans, generally, sometimes other creatures, sometimes just amazing energy flow that doesn't seem to be human at all, because it's actually beyond human. It is, other humans will be guided. Any individual, and this is something for you, Lori, that you just spoke about, the burden is not on you to be the entire support system for any other human being.
Right.
It's not for any of us. It's not for any of us. And we need we need the community. My kitty's going, amen and hallelujah.
Yeah. Did you hear that? We need to see more. Did you hear that?
Free. Set yourself free. So for everyone, I invite. This is a deep conversation. You might need to re-listen. And it's a tender thing. It's a tender thing because we can have some very deep programming that, oh my God, if I don't do it, this awful thing will happen.
Yeah.
Either to you, if I had programming that if I dared to have joy, something bad would happen to me because I would be punished as a child. See? And then Lori's programming is if she had dared to take care of herself, that was selfish because there was somebody else who needed it more. And this doesn't make anybody bad or wrong, but this is where we're at. It's just be honest with this is where I am. The gift of awareness is empowering. And now make a new choice, higher vibrational choice. And that choice can change things in a second because then you approach the same situation with a higher consciousness, with divine presence and power, instead of the fearful, anxiety-ridden, guilt-ridden, shame-based programming of the old self you were. You are literally reborn when you make a higher choice, a powerful, clear conviction, decision, commitment to live out the choice. And I encourage everyone to do that. Reach out if we can help you with that. Okay.
And we're not saying it's easy. It is definitely not easy. It's a simple choice, but it is not easy to follow through on, especially with the uncertainty of the length of life, or if it's, an illness, we're not sure what's going on. It's not easy, but it can be done.
Yes. And I would say part of that not being easy is if you're trying to do it alone, it really does become very difficult. And often in enmeshment and in dealing with toxic personalities, part of the problem is the isolation that is demanded of you, and that you do not have the network to support you to do this in a way that it's not cruel to anybody. We're not saying be cruel to toxic people, but sometimes you have to be very, very direct and very strong. Firm and very direct and very strong with a toxic personality that wants to just steamroll over you or constantly maneuver and pull the rug out from you under you all the time. And we have to learn how to deal with those. Spencer had shared a book before, and I love this book. It does teach a lot of great. It's called Healing from Hidden Abuse, and it's really good about explaining in our culture, we don't do a good job of addressing, this is not mental illness, just so we're clear. So we don't do a great job addressing that either, but this is about psychological, abusive, toxic behaviors that other people choose. And then we try to manage them as if they're benign. They're not benign. They are very destructive. And so in our society, we tend to go, well, if you're a good person and you're spiritual, you just put up with it. And that's a whole lot of BS. Please don't do that to yourself. That is not true. That is not spiritual. That is not wise. That is not sacred self-love. It's completely wasteful of your precious gift of life. Okay? There's a better way.
There are people, too, who absolutely do not realize how toxic their actions are for others. They absolutely don't get it. I know there's one situation from my childhood that no one in the family will ever forget. My older brother was in the hospital at one point. He was supposed to be on just a liquid diet for a few days, and he was brought spaghetti and meatballs. And he took the spaghetti and meatballs and he lifted up the tray and he threw it at the nurse and said, "Are you kidding me? Are you trying to kill me?" And he was just verbally vomiting all over her. The food went everywhere. And my mother walked in and said, "If you are strong enough to throw that against the wall, you're strong enough to get out of bed and clean it up." all the nurses and doctors, and we all were like, what? I mean, we was like, you've got to be kidding me. And we were like, oh my God, my mother is like in the process of abusing my brother to the point where he had surgery 3 days ago, and she's making him get out of bed and clean up that mess that he just made. And she did. And I mean, just the look on her face, and I was just like, that right there was also a pivotal point, because I was like, oh my mother has lost it. But she was very calm about it. Very, if you have this, if you're making this choice, then you have enough energy. And by golly, he did. And I think that was the last time I'd seen my brother have any kind of forceful energy being pushed on anybody else when he was not feeling well, when he was hurting, when he was, there've been other times. I mean, he, but, at that young age, I was like, wow, that was like my first real vital lesson of, realize what you're doing and how it's affecting others.
Isn't it interesting, Lori, too, that that's a great, another insight you brought up, that in our culture, we're taught if somebody is not feeling well or going through some kind of, stressful situation,
Mm-hmm.
acceptable for them to behave in toxic ways.
Yes, and it's not at all.
It's acceptable for them to ask for help. It's acceptable for them to say, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. This food you brought me, it feels cruel that you did that. Why would you do that? Don't ever do that to me. That feels awful. All of that's acceptable, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But to push it away is one thing, but to just blah, and I also have compassion for God only knows what he went through also in all that he went through. So we're not judging your brother for it. It's just, but that's really important because I ask everybody, think about friends you have, family that you have, colleagues you have, anybody in a community or organization and group. When they're not feeling well, do you allow yourself to be abused by them? Thinking, well, that's compassion. See, that's not compassion.
Yeah.
That's being a doormat and an enabler for toxic.
Yeah, everybody has their bad days. Oh, well, we'll just let this slide. No.
Yeah.
It does wonders for us to pick up the phone later and talk to that person. Hey, is everything okay? What's going on with you?
Yeah. If they want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't want to talk, if they want to dump more anger, then don't do it. You don't owe that to somebody.
Right.
Right. And we're not saying don't be caring. We're saying be caring in healthy ways.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely be caring in healthy, high vibrational conscious ways. Get yourself aligned, be in your sovereignty, because that energy will shift a lot. It will literally cause, I had an instance where somebody showed up and dropped chaos bombs all over my front yard, and I didn't even know they were here because I was in a different vibe on a phone call. And I find out later, it's like, I'm glad I dodged that bullet. Angels were watching out for me that I didn't have to get in the middle of a big frenzy. I didn't like what happened, but I wasn't pulled into it either. Yeah. It's really cool how when you hold your sovereignty, people go left or right or show up when you're not there or don't show up at all. They go somewhere else with their chaos. It's really cool how that works out. All right. Anything else from either of you?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. So we went a little longer today. It was a good conversation. Sometimes we'll do that when it's going well. We'll just stay and keep going. So let's do our blessing. You want to start the blessing, Lori? Or would you like me to do it?
I would like you to do it today. Thank you for the offer.
You're welcome. Of course, anytime. So I ask everybody to just come back into your body and open your hearts to pure source. Feel the love of the divine for you and the support of divine presence and power for you, with you, always.
Mm.
That's the space of sovereignty and sacred self-love right there. That's it. And we want to say thank you for being with us today. We want to receive and bless the energy of your presence today with us, whether it's live or later on the replay. And we want to bless our center for the energy of our presence, offering this to you every week, and all the other things that we do behind the scenes, you might say. And we want to ask you to continue to flow that with us. Other ways you can flow energy as you receive from us and want to flow back. You can do the like, love, care icon. You can make a comment, even if it's just a hello or a I enjoyed this. You can share this with anyone whose life you think could possibly be enriched by the message of today or any other message that you receive from us. And we, as Spencer said, we are a 501c3. We do depend on donations for our existence to meet our operating expenses. So there's a Facebook button if you're on there. There's our PayPal link if you're on YouTube or Facebook. That's the quickest, simplest way to get it to us is our PayPal link. We love the Amazon Smile, those little surprise checks that come in. That's cool. We like that too. That way it doesn't cost you anything. It just shares to us. You can just set us up. Look for Spiritual Center for Conscious Living as one of the Smile charities. We receive old-fashioned checks in the mail. Our website has our mailing address, SCfCL.org. There's a lot else on there. By the way, there's a cool this month. The image I have for our message each week is a beautiful school of fish. I love that, and I think that's cool because of the fish in the background. That's the idea of you can be part of this beautiful group, but you're still individuated, and you swim around, but you're still individuated. Part of the oneness of the whole, and the beautiful wholeness of the one, in as the individuated fish within the school. And so, do that. Be the individuated fish in the school of all your loved ones and all life itself. We close with this blessing. In our center, we choose with absolute pure heart to honor the sacredness of all life, all people, all creatures, all living beings, all sentient beings, nature, and our amazing, wonderful earth itself. And we invite you to join us in that. And as you go forward this week, make conscious choices aligned with your values. Allow yourself the beauty and joy of being true to yourself, being who you are, pure you, rather than getting lost in the space of others so that you can enjoy others. And at the same time, remember who you are and be who you are. Many blessings to you. We'll be back next week with the conclusion, which is called The Sweet Spot, Balancing Sovereignty and Oneness. So we're going to talk about how to learn how to dance together, like the beautiful fish that swim together, but at the same time, take a step back and dance solo once in a while, however that serves you. You can do both, okay? You don't have to choose. We can do both, all right? Many blessings. Have a wonderful week. We're happy you were with us. Bye, everyone.